Hey everyone, this is Lynn Bartown, and you are listening to the A.P.E.X. Hour on KSUU Thunder 91.1. In this show, you get more personal time with the guests who visit Southern Utah University from all over, learning more about their stories and opinions beyond their presentations on stage. We will also give you some new music to listen to and hope to turn you on to some new sounds and new genres. You can find us here every Thursday at 3 p.m. or on the web at scu.edu/apex. But for now, welcome to this week's show here on Thunder 91.1. Okay, welcome into the A.P.E.X. Hour, everyone. As you know, I am Lynn Vartan, and man, I feel like I do say this every week, but this week I mean it even more than others. I am here with we are officially calling you KP because we are friends now, I think.
Yes, we are.
But Kerstin Plehwe is in the house, and she gave a talk today particularly about the lessons that she learned from her time as being a ranger in Africa. But welcome into the studio, KP.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. And just a little bit of background for our guests. I mean, the great circle, the great network that A.P.E.X. is becoming is something that I'm so proud of. And those of you who are listening or have been fans of the podcast may remember Dr. Bertice Berry, who was here with us last April and had such a good time, and we connected on stage together so well. But she was the one who said, you have to have Kerstin come. So the international global circle of A.P.E.X. events is expanding. So we are here welcoming Kerstin from Germany. And I'd love to just start by having you tell our listeners a bit about your history and who you are.
Well, first of all, let me say how happy I am to be here.
Yay.
You know, it's a long travel from Germany to Utah. But I love every minute of it. I loved it. I love being in America. I love spending time here. It's not enough. I have to leave tonight, unfortunately, but I will be back, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure. I mean, my history is, I define myself as an entrepreneur all my life, although I just had my first business when I was 18. So there was a life before I was 18. But I really feel that the happiest times in my life were one in my childhood when I lived as a child in Africa, in South Africa. And then when I had the chance to work with so many great people during my career with Olympic athletes and top politicians and corporate leaders, and I was able to help them along their way. At least they said so, which is always good.
I am sure you helped them. You've helped us already today.
So I am... What can I say? I'm just me.
Now, you have always had quite an affection for the United States, and I was quite shocked to hear that. Tell us a little bit about how that's just always been there, or something that came and developed. How did that come about?
I had no clue where it came from when I was young, but I always had it. I mean, before I finished high school, I said, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to America. So always. And my family was not very America oriented. They loved traveling and loved seeing the world, but there was not I was like a fan. I had, the American flag in my bedroom. I still have that, by the way, not in the bedroom, but on the terrace of our house. And, so I didn't know where it came from. And it was just later on that I learned that some of my roots are in America, actually, and some of my family lives here, which didn't surprise me at all. Yeah. And I think as a child, I had the talent, which I lost later on as an adult for some time. I got it back, thankfully. But as a child, I had the talent to listen to an inner voice kind of thing.
Right.
So I knew that I love America. I knew that I want to go there, and I just did it. And in my business and my hectic times of my career, I somehow lost that connection with understanding what I really want and what my passion is. But thank goodness you get clues from life like I did. And then we're going to talk about that, I know.
Yeah.
But sometimes life helps you and then you just need to listen, open the door and go through.
Do you know, was it any one thing? I mean, was it the fashion or the culture, or was it the sense of freedom or the audacity? I mean, was it anything in particular about the U.S., or was it just that it was over there and foreign in a way?
Mainly, I think it was the feeling of freedom, and the positivity of the American people about new ideas. Whatever you think, everybody would be like, "Oh my God, that sounds great! Why don't you do it, go for it?" You know, the Germans are very, careful in their judgment and slow and very detail oriented. Especially they're not as open to new ideas. And I think we urgently need new ideas and new leadership. So I felt just very home with the sort of the cultural setting. And this is also what makes me a bit sad today, that I feel that the American people are just so caught up in political fights against one another instead of, talking and sharing. And this is what, for me, the American spirit and the American story is. But times change. So I guess when politics change, or when people have the audacity to, not to step back from democracy and not go vote, but in the opposite, reach out and talk to the friends and talk to neighbors, no matter of whatever their political background is, and just say, we're all in this American dream and we want to make it happen. So we have to find solutions and not, blame one another on stupid things.
Exactly. And you've really dealt with that firsthand, being in the political arena for so many years. Can you talk a little bit about that history, and you were a part of different projects and campaigns, and what that time period was like for you?
For me, that time period was very exciting. I had I was with a German TV station besides my job as a political analyst, and I had the opportunity to be with 3 campaigns: the Bush campaign, the 2 Obama campaigns, and then the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I covered that and analyzed that for a German TV station. And I loved doing that because you sort of get into the background of things. And since my own company was, advising political parties on, strategies of, voter turnout and those kind of things, I just learned so much, and I met just so many people just across many, many states. And I was just, since I was in love with America anyways, for me, it was just such a deep experience of diversity across the states. So I just loved the time. And when the last election results came in, I was in a German TV studio and realized really for the first time in sort of an intense moment of clarity how much the society and the media world had changed, because nobody expected this result of the election in Europe. And also how the media played out to be in this election. It was in many phases shocking for me. So I thought, this is not what politics should be about, with fake news that are bought and with robots and all those things. So I do have a big hope, and this is why I'm so happy to be speaking at universities. And the hope is the young people who simply say no to that kind of media, to that kind of politicians, and, sort of stand up for what they feel is right. Because my feeling is it has become a bit crazy, and it needs people who say, no more of that bullshit. We need something else, something real, something we can trust, and something inward we can hope for a good future for all of us.
And is that the general German perspective right now, or do you feel that that's more your perspective with your affinity to the U.S., or do you feel that many people in Europe are looking sort of at us and seeing that?
Well, people all over the world tend to jump to very fast conclusions, because they read something and they hear something and they think, oh, this is the case there and there. And that makes me sad, because, there's such a vast amount of information out there on the internet and on Facebook and all of that, so that we lose the ability to really judge what's real. And reality is that the Germans love the Americans. I mean, we owe America so much, and nobody has forgotten that. But many Germans today and many Europeans, they simply can't understand how a nation from the outside view changes so much, and that so different values are displayed now. So, and nobody gives them a reason. So if you don't give people a reason to understand, then they have a hard time and they distance themselves. And the same thing I see on the American side. When I used to come visit a couple of years ago, everybody was like, "Oh, you're from Germany. I have German roots. My grandfather served and he was stationed in Heidelberg, whatever." And nowadays it's like, "Oh, you're from Germany? Really? How is it there with all the refugees?" And I say, "Yeah, we have refugees, but we're still, we're a safe place." And it's just so much really craziness out there in the media about who's doing what and, what the life in Germany or in America is like, that I think the only chance how to sort of escape from that craziness is reaching out to real people, talking to them, sitting down with them, having dinner, being in a talk show, and just talking and being open to how is your life right now, without a preconception of, oh my God, they are like this and they are like that. Just be open and realize what's going on, because many, many Europeans love America, and we're very sad. We're actually scared to lose the leadership in the global community.
Right. Okay, well, that gives us a little bit of the political background, and also you have a huge corporate background, but we want to get in and maybe tease a little bit into the conversation about Africa. So can you lead us? We'll just spend a bit sort of teasing everyone, and then we'll have our first musical break. But can you tell everybody, you sort of had an aha moment and decided to change everything.
Yes. I thought those aha moments just exist in American TV on the Oprah show or so. But I actually had this aha moment on my life in a little office in Dublin. I had gone there to do the work for one of my books, which was on female leadership. And I had interviewed a female leader, Caroline Casey, also just like me, a TED speaker, about her life and how she got where she was and what she wanted to share with the next generation, kind of advice for life kind of thing. And she asked me a question that sort of created my aha moment. And the question was, what was your biggest dream as a child? What did you want to be? And I remember looking at Caroline and having no clue. No clue.
Amazing.
And I thought, this is not possible. I'm just 40 years old. I mean, I must have at least, an idea of what it was. I had no clue. And I promised Caroline that I would try to remember. And if it felt good, and if it would bring the memory, if it would bring a smile back onto my face, that I would try to do it.
Wow.
And, Germans love to keep promises. So I did remember on my way back from Dublin, I saw me as a little girl in South Africa living with my parents, standing in the living room and saying, with the pride that only children have, with the ultimate belief of this will happen, saying, when I grow up, I'm going to be a ranger in South Africa, Kruger Park. And I was 10 years old.
That's beautiful. And when you had that moment, when you were returning from Dublin, were you, what was that? I mean, were you in a car? Were you in a hotel room? Was it a moment of stillness, or did it just kind of hit you in the middle of another thought, or?
No, it didn't hit me. And I really had to sort of direct my brain.
Okay.
And I describe that in my book, which is unfortunately not available in English yet.
But we've been begging, so.
Yes. So if any publisher listens to this, please consider. It was a bestseller in Germany and in Austria. So maybe The Wisdom of the Elephants. And I describe it there where I say, I was looking out of the window in an airplane. It's so beautiful because you see the clouds and everything you distance yourself from the world down there. And so I tried to remember the happiest time of my life, which was my childhood. And I knew immediately that was in South Africa. And So I just sort of dozed with open eyes into that time, and I saw our house in South Africa, and I'm a dog lover. I'm an animal lover anyways, but I'm a dog lover, and I had a little cocker spaniel, Timba was her name, and I saw us being in that house, and then all of a sudden, I describe it in the book as like a curtain is pulled away and the fog lifts.
Oh, wow.
And I could just see myself being in that house, and the fog lifted even more, and I was standing in that living room in a short dress with two, I don't know how it's called in English, the hair
Pigtails.
Ponytail
or ponytails.
Yeah,
Pigtails,
ponytails
yeah.
sticking away from my head.
Yes.
And saying, with that ultimate belief, I will become a ranger in Krieger Park. Not knowing that 2 years later we would return to Germany. I'd go back to school. I'd, go to university. I'll start a corporate career. And having no idea about that, I believed that I would be in ranger.
And inevitably, it did happen, which
yes,
we will come back
thank
and
goodness.
talk about. I can't wait to talk about it more. Well, Kerstin requested some African music today. And as you know, I love to get me into the world music zone. So I have a couple of different examples. They're all quite different. This first piece that I'm going to play is called Imagination, and the artist is Efat Mujuru. And yeah, you can check it out. It features the instrument, the mbira, which is also called a thumb piano, and the album is Journey of the Spirit. Again, this is Imagination. KSUU Thunder 91.1. Okay, welcome back. KSU Youth under 91.1. We are talking to KP, Kerstin Plehwe, and she's here visiting from Germany and talking about her time where we last left you on the show was that she had rediscovered her childhood love and desire to be a ranger in Africa. And you made that happen.
I did. But I mean, everybody has some deep desires, but we tend, as we grow up, we tend to believe that, it's that we should be realistic and we should be good parents and good teachers and good lawyers and doctors and everything, and that there's no time to dream or to follow your passions. And I was the same. I thought, all those things are just so important. I don't have time for anything else. But the interesting thing is what I learned is once you decide to do something that really means something to you, you can make the time.
Yeah.
And anything is possible. And at that point, nothing matters. I mean, I was so worried, what my colleagues and my people who were working for me would say when I said, I'm leaving for Africa. I was worried that they would think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Or that they would, not do any more business with me. And this is often the case. We feel something, but then we worried what people would say.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so happy today that I was not worried in that second. I just thought I have to do this and I want to do this and I will do it. And it was the happiest time of my life.
So did any of those thoughts come in and then you push them away? Because I think that all the time. I mean, we get a little bit stuck on the hamster wheel and the responsibility of everything and who we are and who we're supposed to be and who we're defined by. Did you just gently but firmly push those thoughts away? Or were you just so laser focused on the new thing? How was that part of it for you?
I think we all have a tendency to overthink situations, not just about what other people say, but, how it would work out and if we have the money for it and all of this. And because it was such an emotional, magic place where I went in my mind back to South Africa from my childhood, there was no place for thinking. It was just feeling. It was pure joy. So I think if you want to learn from that, we could just say to ourselves, what inside of me gives me pure joy. And then if it's very pure, you don't worry so much. You still worry. I worried afterwards, after I booked my ranger course, but that was much later.
Yeah.
And in the end, this leads the path. I do believe things that, if you follow your destiny or your passions. Bertice, you talked about her. Dr. Barry said, if you follow your destiny, if you follow your passion, you will collide with destiny.
Right.
And it's just so true. I found many things I wanted to change in my life in South Africa just because I left my comfort zone. I left everything behind, my family, my employees, my clients for 3 months and said, it's just for me. It's just for me. And as I said, it was the best time of my life. And even my family and my clients, and they all benefited from that once I came back because I was happier. I was more efficient. I think I was even healthier and much more appreciative of what life is because this is what I've learned in Africa. We forget to appreciate what we have over here and we forget to appreciate that we survive a day. In Africa, every day, in the wild is about life or death.
Right.
And we push sickness and death away from us. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to hear it. The elderly are put in nursing homes and, we don't like to go to hospitals. And nature is not like that. Any second you can die. And so if you live in nature and if you see death happen in front of your eyes, you all of a sudden realize, oh my God, it can happen not just to the animals every second, it can happen to all of us. So let's just say, I thought that on my Jeep one morning where I saw that a zebra was chased by lions and finally killed. And following the attack, and I'm not very well looking at blood and death and all of this, but I had to. I was right there, and I thought, what does that mean to me if my life would just, in 2 minutes it's done? What would I regret? What would I have wished for that I did? That I said to people that I haven't said yet. And I realized that there are so many other things besides my corporate job that I would regret, that I decided to leave my corporate job in Africa. I decided that. And just to be able not to regret, if you die and if it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah.
But if it's time to go, I don't want to regret.
Yeah.
I want to be thankful.
Ah, beautiful. What an incredible experience. I'd love to know, what were those first few days like in Africa? Because it was a significant change and of course a significant trip, and it had a lot of emotional weight perhaps to it, and perhaps expectation. And so I'm curious, what were those first moments like?
Well, first of all, when I landed in Johannesburg and had to take a shuttle from there to the gate of where we worked through the Drakensberge and just a beautiful nature. But when I landed in South Africa and I heard the voices of the people there, they're so friendly and just so nice, and I was just the happiest person you can think of.
Wow.
I did not know what was in front of me. I had no clue how hard it is to become a ranger, because of course there's many things you have to learn, and I'm talking about a 3-month course. You have to learn, for example, to identify 150 just voices of birds, and I knew one as a European, and that's a pigeon. And in South Africa there are many different pigeons.
150, that's so many.
By just, starting to do it.
Yeah.
If we think about it, we think we can do it. But if you put yourself to it, you can. And I'm not super intelligent. I'm not the best bird person ever, but I managed to learn them and to finally get through the exams. But what's even more important is, when I came into the gate, what you asked, what was my first impression? You have to imagine, and it's a bit shaming to say that, but I was such a, corporate person. I traveled with 3 suitcases and a purse.
Oh.
I took a purse to Africa. Nobody would. The people would usually check in with a
backpack
and a water thing included. But I walked in with 2 suitcases and the purse.
Oh.
And the ranger who loaded the things onto his Jeep, because he picked me up at the outside gate, he just gave me a look of, who is this person?
Look what the cat dragged in.
Yeah, exactly. And I was the only woman, which I hadn't known before, on an all-male course. But of course, it just fed every single thought they had about women. They travel with so much luggage, and they have their handbag everywhere, so in their purse. So it was really funny. I had to laugh about myself, thinking, oh my God. But back in Europe, I could not decide what I should leave out of my suitcase. I just couldn't. I tried to decrease the weight. And then I looked at all over and thought, no, I need this, I need that, I need that with those water bottles, I need those mosquito spray, and this. So I was an executive, and executives, in my point of view, always try to be prepared.
Yeah.
And I was prepared for everything in Africa. I even had a hairdryer in a camp where there's no electricity. I was prepared. I tried to prepare for everything. And in the end, I was prepared for nothing. Because in the end, it was just me and my 5 senses trying to get through this super intense course of experiencing nature on your feet, by foot, or, sleeping in a tent. And learning to trace lions and detect cheetahs and learn everything about elephants and all the beautiful, beautiful animals and plants and even the climate in Africa. And I just immersed myself in that experience and realized it's just such a magic out there, outside of our comfort zone. We just have to move our booty and get there.
Yeah.
And this is what I took back. We have to, and I try to inspire in my talks corporate people and students all around the world by saying the biggest learning is not in your comfort zone. The biggest learning is outside of your comfort zone, because you learn things there where you didn't know that you could do it beforehand. You discover talents and strength that you didn't know you had. And I think for the challenges, especially for the young generation that are ahead of them, you're solving many fundamental issues in our society, if it's, pollution in nature or democracy or whatever you name. They're just fundamental issues. And in order that they can be solved, they need strength, they need clarity, they need focus, they need to believe in their talents. And you don't find that strength when you just sit in your comfort zone.
Exactly right.
So it doesn't matter if you're outside of your comfort zone, if it's Africa or learning a new language or going someplace else or having a really complicated talk with your boss or with your parents. Leaving your comfort zone, is that what makes you strong? Mm-hmm. And strength is the basis for success.
Oh, I love that. Well, you talk a lot about your comfort zone and getting out of your comfort zone and that being one of the major lessons. But there are other fantastic lessons that you shared with us today. And I'd love to get back to those, particularly talking about the senses and some of our priorities and finding quiet time, because I know that's something that's very important to you. So in honor of that, I have another song. And we were talking about this when the title of it, this is an artist who I've played before on the show, Sekou Keita. And so Seckou, and last name is Keita. And this is an artist who plays a traditional African instrument, but does it in a modern way. And the title I thought was particularly wonderful considering some of our discussions. And that title is Listen to the Grass Grow. We'll get into a little bit of that stillness and the importance of listening to the grass grow when we come back. But in the meantime, have a listen. This is the A.P.E.X. Hour, KSGU Thunder 91.1. Okay, well, welcome back to the Apex Hour, everyone. I'm joined in the studio with KP, Kerstin Plehwe, and welcome back. And we were talking about the lessons that you learned from your time studying to be a ranger in Africa. And a couple of the things that really stuck out to me in the talk today were your talk about the importance of priorities and knowing yourself. Can you go just into that a little bit here today? I just love that.
Yes, when I went to Africa, I came from a very busy world, between politics and TV and leading a corporation. So I had never a lot of time to rethink, my priorities, or I just had to-do lists. And I fulfilled them. I was a good girl, so to speak. But I never had the idea of, matching my priorities with my values.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in Africa is that this is just so important. For example, if you look at lions, they just have 3 priorities, just 3. It's food, sleep, and sex. That's all. They mate, they eat, they sleep. Lions sleep 80% of the whole day, which is basically all day, except the night, because then a couple hours at night they hunt. And watching that, and being a part of that natural circle of life for days and weeks on end, I realized that their priorities are in sync with their values. And so I started to rethink my own priorities. And I wondered if, first of all, if I'm aware of my priorities. Second off, if they really match up well with my values. And all of a sudden I realized that I have priorities that don't match with any of my values, but it was just because of, my life was so busy and this had to be handled. So I think there's a big value in that, really, when you have some quiet time to rethink your priorities and then look at your day and see, did I really live a day? Did I use my 24 hours to match, first of all, my values, and second off, my priorities? So let's just say family is a big value to you, but it's not on your priority list either. And you have hardly any time with your family because you work so much. And even if you have time, you're tired or you're whatever, you're not in a good mood or you're just exhausted and your head is somewhere else. Then, of course, after some time, you get dissatisfied. And after some more time, you get unhappy. And after some more time, you might fight depression or a burnout or whatever. So I do think it's just very helpful to look at that. And every time I saw lions just sleeping under a bush, I thought, oh my God, when did I take the last healthy nap?
Yeah. So
that was for me very interesting. And then you were talking about the 5 senses. I don't know if our listeners are aware that everybody has a certain set of senses that they mainly act in. Every human has 5 senses. But usually you have one dominant sense, the visual sense or the auditive sense. And so you act in those senses, meaning, you have to describe it in visual terms so that somebody who's mainly visual, really connects with what you say. Mm-hmm. And if you want to survive the wilderness, you need to use all 5 senses because your dominant sense, let's just say the visual, is simply not enough. For example, you might see that the grass has been stepped on, let's say by a lion, and it's pretty fresh, so he's still in the area. But you also need your cognitive senses, for example, to see where the wind comes from, okay? Because then you will understand where you need to move so that the lion can't smell you. And you also need other senses like hearing to really, really focus on hearing, to hear that little stick that the lion, in the thicket when his tail moves. So if you don't use 5 senses really in a good way, you wouldn't survive for a long time in the wild. But the good thing is we can all learn, we can all adapt very fast, especially if you feel that your survival is dependent on that. Mm-hmm. So we can all do that, in our home, in our secure space, and say, okay, well, just close your eyes for a second and think, okay, what am I hearing? or open your eyes and really focus on what am I seeing? All the details, everything, the colors, the shapes, everything. We can train that. I once worked with an Olympic athlete. She's blind. It's a close friend of mine, Verena. And I told her, because she's an expert in not being able to see, I said, tell me what you see through your other 4 senses. And I've learned so much from her. Yeah. So using the 5 senses, in business, we always talk about excellence. And in life, in personal life, we talk about happiness. So in order to get there, we need the full experience, and we need to use our senses to make us the best person we can be, or the best chef, or the best corporate leader. And the 5 senses principle, I call it, is just so helpful for that.
And you said you can learn it in your own home by just taking some time to be more aware of it, but you can also bring it back into the boardroom, if you will, or back into the meeting. And I love the exercise that you talk about just kind of opening up those senses at the beginning of a meeting. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yes, when I came back from Africa, many things for me had changed. And since my company was always my somehow playground, I immediately implemented change there. And one thing, for example, I implemented was that I use the time of doing nothing, which I call the wisdom of the elephants, of just the, mindfulness, just realizing what is, every time before I enter a meeting room. And we had several meeting rooms in my company. And I got aware in Africa how I sort of senseless and mindless just walked in there, with my head still already thinking about the meeting, and then with notes in my hand or my smartphone. And one eye looked at the smartphone, the other looked already in the room. Is everybody there already? And I realized that this is not using the 5 senses. So then I opened the door after I had come back from Africa and just sat down, took a deep breath, and just realized what is. And this is what it's all about. You don't have to go into a yoga studio and you can do that, and it's absolutely helpful, but you don't have to. You can just focus on what is, focus on your breathing, see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel, and you will be amazed on the amount of information you get. For example, about your team, how they feel, what they're worried about, what they would like to hear from the boss, and you just feel it. Yeah. And I've learned in Africa to trust my intuition. Once I open my senses for that, all the 5 doors, the intuition speaks to you. It just never spoke to me before, because not never, but hardly ever.
Right.
In some business decisions it did, thank goodness. But, it speaks to you. Yeah. But we have to learn to open the channels, and we do that by doing nothing,
I love that.
I always say tone out to tone in.
Oh, that's great. Oh, what a great motto for the day and for the week. Now, I'd love to know, I understand that you have some new topics on your horizon, and that you are focusing on some new things and have some new studies that you've been learning and sharing with people. I'd love to hear more about those.
Well, life is about change, and I learned in Africa to adapt to change, and just in order to be part of life and not of some theory which you think is life. So the change that I've seen in my immediate surrounding is that many of my friends and my colleagues and clients and family members get more and more insecure about what to eat, and if they should do the vegetarian thing or the vegan or the paleo, or some of my friends want to lose weight and they tried this diet and that diet, and I come from a political background. I know the impact of lobbyism onto, for example, food advertising. And I've seen the power of some industries, onto our decision-making process. And all of a sudden I realized, this is something we should start talking about, to help people, not to promote a certain diet or to promote a certain lifestyle. I think people are so bio-individual, and I've learned that at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York. We all are bio-individuals, but we can take informed decisions about what we eat, what we drink, and how we spend our days. And I feel that because we lead such hectic and outside focused lifestyles, we don't take the time, or we don't want to, or we are insecure about the details that we need to know. For example, reading a food label, understanding, we all know that, a soft drink has tons of sugar. We know that. But asking ourselves, what does that mean for us? And then, take some statistical data that we all have about, for example, the standard American diet, and understand how come that the diabetes numbers are just rocketing, that the cancer numbers are rocketing all across the world. In the developed nations, same thing in Europe. And we all know that there is a relation to food, but we really don't know, okay, well, I don't want to become extremely in whatever direction today, but I want to make better decisions. I want to feel good about what I eat. And I also want to understand, if I need energy, what is real energy and not just a sugar flash that helps me for an hour. So I help students and corporate leaders to develop that sensitivity within their teams and to make better decisions. And I call that Go Green, Go Great. Because, of course, vegetables, you will guess it, are a part of this. But I'm not saying, all you should eat is vegetables. I say make food choices. Food choices are health choices in the end. We can never forget, every cell in our body, every blood cell, every bone, every skin cell is produced from what we put into our bodies. Mm-hmm. So, on many packages here in the US, and same thing in German supermarkets, it says no artificial colors or, organic or whatever, but they don't talk about the fat in it and the many, many bad amounts of sugar, etc. So, and I think just like in politics, if we know better, we can act better. And that's what this talk is about.
Well, we can't wait to have you back. That's for sure. We're already planning it. I know that will be a very meaningful, and it is the topic that's on everybody's mind. You hear about it all the time, and I think it's really important for everyone, really. So, well, we have time for one more musical break. And this song is called Mama, and it's performed by the Kenyan Boys Choir. And once again, you're listening to the A.P.E.X. Hour, KSUU Thunder 91.1.
Luchendo lulo mushalo Umenya hugo mushalo Kusaya wanya sawe fue Ahuenzi ngufu nenda bunyari Obe moyo mama Nasangara buri hase Obe moyo mama Mama Luchendo lulo mushalo Umenya hugo mushalo Kusaya wanya sawe fue Ahuenzi ngufu nenda bunyari Obe moyo mama Nasangara buri hase Obe moyo mama 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 Wahuyanza Mama Wahuyanza 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 Urindi wefwe mama wefwe Mama Wahuyanza Wahuyanza wefwe mama wefwe Mama Wahuyanza
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the A.P.E.X. Hour. This is Lynn Vartan. I am in the studio with Kerstin Plehwe from Germany, who is a best-selling author. The book is called Elephant Wisdom, and we are really pressuring her to get it translated or to get an audiobook version, perhaps. I hope both of those are a possibility. One of the things we're almost to the end of our hour, but I'd love to ask you about, you have a foundation that you started and is active, for girls' education. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's a foundation. The name is Astraia. I will spell it. It's, ASTRAIA.org.
Okay.
It's the Greek goddess of justice.
Ooh.
And we picked that name because we feel and we saw that there are still so many countries around the world where girls have less opportunities, for example, to go to school or to have a university degree, and there's just so much injustice around that topic that I teamed up with many female leaders from around the world. Bertice Berry is one of them. And, this is why I don't like it that it's my, when you say it's my foundation, it's really a joint effort of women thinking this has to change. We just stand up for something that's really important for us. And what we do is, first, of course, we generate funds for women's educational projects around the world. We have from Germany to Pakistan to South America to India to, oh my God, Africa, of course, many countries in Africa. And we help girls who have a dream and who want to become something but can't because of financial reasons, cultural reasons, to go there and get that. And we call that project 1,000 Faces of Hope. We want to get 1,000 girls around the world, and we have 365 now.
Wow. So
this is what the foundation does, and we do events and we do charity lunches, and anybody who has an idea, is always welcome to write to me, call me, and any of our ambassadors like Bertice, and just say, hey, I'd like to support that cause. What can we do? There's just so much creativity in people.
That's fantastic. So if people want to get involved, let's just say the name one more time and spell it if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm. It's Astraia, and you spell it ASTRAIA.org.
Great. Thank you so much. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's it gives you also, if you travel those countries where those girls live, another sense of gratitude for all the things we have, from clean water to education to clothing to, and I realize there's a lot of poverty and injustice, and from Germany to America and, many countries. But the question is not, how much poverty or injustice is there. The question is, what can we do?
Yeah.
And what can each of us do? And I chose that pattern. And thank God, with this great network of ambassadors, a good friend of mine, Jutta Kleinschmidt, she was the first female winner of the Dakar race ever. And she's one of my ambassadors and also on the board. So we just do what we can and we love it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a fascinating and fantastic group of people. One thing I'd like to close with is that you have a statement that I have come to love that is really kind of an icon that wraps you up, kind of encompasses your work and your spirit and your passion. And can you tell us a little bit about that statement, that motto of yours, and what it means to you?
I guess you're referring to "Don't Settle, Go Wild."
Yes.
When I created that, it's just it spoke from me, and I thought this is something that hopefully inspires others to not just sit back and do their job and be the best mom and be the best teacher, but to get off their booty, get off the sofa, get out of the living room, get out of their homes, and do something that they feel is important. And if it takes, if you have to leave your comfort zone to do it, then please do it. Because I think if you look at the state of our society, and I'm not just referring to America or Europe, I mean, just the state of our society, there's just so many things that need to be changed. If it's the pollution of nature, if it's injustice, if it's politics, there's just so many fields. So we just simply can't sit back and relax and say everything is well. There are many good things, but there are many things that still need to be changed. So, when journalists in Europe talk to me about being a role model for others, I'm always like, no. I don't want to be a role model. I just want to share experiences and inspire others. I don't want to pass on a torch. I want people to light their own torch, because those torches are needed so urgently. And the pathway, I think, to that torches, and that goes to the beginning of our talk, is look in yourself. Look for your passion. Look what really brings you joy, and then go for it. And as I tell my women around the world in executive coachings, learn to say no, because we have so many options and so many people where we think, oh my God, we should be nice and we should be respectful and we should be polite and politically correct. But I think we have to learn to say no more often, and, take out the time for us to be more creative, to be more compassionate, to be more loving and more caring. And then this world will change, and that's all what we want, right?
Yes. Thank you for that. Our last question that I always like to ask is something just fun, and that's, what is turning you on this week? So, KP, what is turning you on this week? It could be anything, but what's especially floating your boat this week?
Well, big part of my job is travel, and I love traveling. But sometimes, of course, you have to leave your family behind. And I have a young dachshund at home. His name is Anton. He's 7 months old. And already since days, I can't wait to see him at the airport when he jumps up and down like a little rubber ball, and you have to catch him. And then he, tries to climb over your head, because it's just pure happiness. And to see that joy and happiness in little creatures, it could be, a baby or a puppy or a little lion, that just floats my heart with love. And then I think, oh my God, I'm home.
That's definitely a turn on. Well, thank you for that beautiful visual and warmth of heart story to close us off. Well, that's all the time we have today and this week. This has been the A.P.E.X. Hour. Thank you so much, Kerstin, for spending your time with us today. And thank you for traveling across the oceans to come visit Southern Utah University. We look so forward to the next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for having me. And to all the listeners, I hope you really, really stay safe and very, very happy.
Thank you. And we'll sign off for this week. This has been the A.P.E.X. Hour. See you next time. Thanks so much for listening to the A.P.E.X. Hour here on KSUU Thunder 91.1. Come find us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. for more conversations with the visiting guests at Southern Utah University and new music to discover for your next playlist. And in the meantime, we would love to see you at our events on campus. To find out more, check out suu.edu/APEX. Until next week, this is Lynn Vartan saying goodbye from the A.P.E.X. Hour here on Thunder 91.1.